All right, today we're going to talk about a key that unlocks life-saving addiction treatment for thousands of people. Now, it's not a metal key, it's a billing code, H0015. And yeah, it might sound like a bunch of technical gobbledygook, but trust me, understanding it is absolutely critical for patients and providers alike. I mean, think about it. We all know how essential intensive treatment is for someone recovering from a substance use disorder. But for patients who are just trying to get help, and for the providers who want to give that help, the money side of things can be this massive, complicated wall. It often becomes the biggest barrier to the very treatment that saves lives. The answer, or at least a really big part of it, lies in that special code we mentioned. It's a specific sequence that connects the dots. It connects providers to reimbursement, and most importantly, it connects patients to the consistent, comprehensive care they desperately need. See, this code wasn't just pulled out of thin air. It was specifically designed to bridge a critical gap in treatment funding that left so many amazing programs just struggling to keep their doors open. So let's take a closer look and unlock this thing to see how it really works. Okay, so what is H0015, really? Officially, it's a Healthcare Common Procedure Coding System code. That is a mouthful, so pretty much everyone just calls it a HCPCS code. Put simply, it's the code that providers use to bill insurance for a very specific thing: intensive outpatient programs, or IOPs, that are tailor-made for substance use disorders. Now, here's what makes this code so powerful. It isn't for a single appointment. It's a bundled code. Think of it like a package deal. It covers the whole shebang: individual and group therapy, family counseling, managing medications. All of it gets wrapped up under this one billing umbrella. It's that comprehensive approach that makes it a real game changer. So that's the theory, right? But what does this actually look like when you move from theory to practice, out in the real world? Let's dive in. Okay, picture this. A patient with an opioid use disorder is enrolled in a structured program. They're coming in 3 times a week for a mix of therapy and medication-assisted treatment. Instead of the clinic having to bill separately for every single service, which would be a total nightmare, they just use that one code, H0015, to cover that whole block of integrated care. So, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? This dedicated code exists to make sure providers get paid for doing this essential work. So why do we still hear about so many treatment centers struggling with denied claims and delayed payments? Well, the problem isn't the code itself. It's the sheer complexity of the process. So what are these hurdles? Let's break down some of the most common pitfalls and, more importantly, talk about the actual strategies you can use to avoid them. Okay, you can see right here, one of the top errors is failing to get prior authorization. This isn't just a piece of paperwork, it's the insurance company's green light. It confirms that they agree the treatment is medically necessary before you even start. Another huge one, incorrect patient data. A simple typo can derail the entire claim. A double-check system isn't optional, it's essential. And finally, missing filing deadlines. This is where billing software with alerts can be an absolute lifesaver. So you do everything right. You check all the boxes, you cross all the T's, and a claim still gets denied. What now? The key here is not to panic, but to have a system. First, you have to play detective. Figure out exactly why the claim got rejected. Was it a simple clerical mistake or a dispute over medical necessity? Next, you gather your evidence, all the medical records, all the proof of service. Then, you submit a formal, written appeal. And finally, you have to follow up. You have to be persistent. It's the only way to keep your case from getting lost in the shuffle. Now, the good news is that providers are not alone in this fight. There are some really powerful tools and resources out there to help navigate this maze. So, what's in this support toolkit? Well, you've got specialized billing software that can automate a ton of this stuff. You've got organizations like the American Medical Association offering webinars and workshops. Federal agencies like SAMHSA provide crucial guidance. And honestly, professional networks like the NAATP are invaluable for just sharing knowledge and best practices with people who are in the same boat. We've spent a lot of time on the what and how of H015. But let's zoom out. Why does mastering this one code matter so much? It all comes down to the human impact. This quote from Dr. Sarah Johnson, an addiction psychiatrist, just nails the central problem here. She calls H0015 a vital tool, but in the same breath, she says the complexity of using it can become its own barrier to care. It's such a paradox. And you can see this in action. Take this real-world example from a community center in Ohio. They really committed to mastering H0015, and because of that, they were able to keep their entire intensive outpatient program running. That directly meant that dozens of people in their community got the consistent help they needed to achieve sobriety. I mean, when you look at it, there are two very different paths here. Without a solid handle on H0015 billing, programs can face financial ruin and even have to close. That means patients lose access to care. But on the other path, when you master the code, you get sustainable clinics and stable providers. The result? People get well, families begin to mend, and whole communities start to heal. So here's the bottom line. H0015 isn't just an administrative task. It's not just a string of numbers. For the clinics fighting to keep their doors open, and for the patients fighting for their recovery, it is, quite literally, a lifeline. We've seen how powerful this one key can be. But let's be honest, it's just one key for one door in a giant, complex system. So it leaves you with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What other keys do we need to find to finally unlock better, more accessible addiction care for everyone?